In this town, there's no off-season. The news never stops, and neither do we. It's always game day in Cleveland with Andy Baskin and Daryl Ryder.
Welcome to another episode of It's Always Game Day in Cleveland. I'm Daryl Ryder. Andy Baskin is apparently on assignment. We are brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. Well, let's kind of start here, a little Han Solo edition of the podcast. Travis Hunter and the big debate that's going on, what the Browns will do at the second overall pick in the draft. Also, let's not forget, they have the 33rd overall pick, which is pick number 1. On day number 2, the Browns were in Colorado on Friday, checking out both Travis Hunter as well as Shedeur Sanders and the rest of the draft-eligible Colorado Buffaloes. Deion Sanders spoke, had a few complimentary things to say about Browns owner Jimmy Haslam. Sanders is convinced, Deion Sanders that is, that either Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders absolutely is going to end up in Cleveland playing for the Browns. There's been some conjecture. Could the Browns possibly get both Colorado Buffaloes, bring both of them to Cleveland as teammates? And I'm here to tell you that that would be unlikely. I would be surprised. Yes, anything is possible. I never like to speak in absolutes, but I would lean towards that, at least right now, when I look at this particular situation, that the Browns would not be able to get Shedeur Sanders. And we're going to talk about him and his prospects heading in to the NFL draft because I don't know that he may fall as far down the order that many people think that he could potentially fall. I will remain consistent and things that I have said about Shedeur Sanders. I don't think he's worthy of the number 2 overall pick. I also don't think Cam Ward's worthy of being the number 1 overall pick. But as I always like to say, my opinion doesn't matter. What matters is that of NFL GMs and scouts and executives. And Cam Ward, it is looking like, will be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. The Tennessee Titans, it came out over the weekend, had canceled their private workout and visit with Shedeur Sanders, which leads you down basically 2 paths in the fork in the road. The left side is Cam Ward absolutely going to go number 1, or number 2 on the right side of that fork in the road is that, well, the Titans have seen all they need to see. They have done all the scouting that they need to do. And so there's nothing else to see from Shedeur Sanders to make him the number 1 overall pick. But I'm of the belief that it is going to be Cam Ward taken number 1 overall in this draft, which means the following. The Cleveland Browns not only are on the clock, but they control this draft, starting with that number 2 pick. As we are I'm recording this on a Monday evening here. We are 17 days away from the NFL draft. We have 17 more days of conversation of what the Browns may or may not do with the number 2 pick in the draft. Right now, I think they keep the pick, and I think the pick will be Travis Hunter. And if you look around the internet, you listen to a lot of national shows. I believe ESPN's Adam Schefter said something to the effect on Monday that he is of the impression that the Browns would be taking Travis Hunter. And I want to make sure that I get Schefter's words correctly, because I certainly don't want to misquote him, but I'll just tell you this. With the way that Andrew Berry works, he doesn't let the cat out of the bag, okay? He does not tip his hand. So when you hear reports that the Browns are leaning one way or the other, or people think that they're going to do something, it's most likely an educated guess. I don't believe that it's a situation where, they're going to go ahead and actually do something, because that's just not how Andrew Berry works or operates. He keeps things close to the vest. He does not like tipping his hand. He loves, I think, right now that everybody's trying to figure out this quarterback thing. Where are they going to go? Are they going to pick one at 2? Are they trading back into the first round? Are they going to pick one at 33? Are they going to wait till later in the draft? Are they going to draft multiple quarterbacks and try and get multiple swings at that position with the rookie players? Nobody knows except for Andrew Berry. And I think that is something that Berry is absolutely eating up right now. But I caution you that when you hear the Browns are leaning a direction or this is what they're going to do, it is speculation. It is opinion, because Andrew Berry is not picking up the phone. He's not calling Adam Schefter. He's not calling Jordan Schultz. He's not calling Ian Rappaport or Diana Rossini or anyone else to tell them, oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to pick so-and-so with the second pick in the draft. At least he's not going to do that 17 days in advance of the draft. So this is where having some general knowledge about Andrew Berry's approach to his job and how he conducts business really comes into play. And again, Berry does not like to tip his hand and tell people specifically what he is thinking of doing or what he is actually going to do. So from here up until the draft, take all of those reports with a grain of salt. As I like to say, it is lying season, and read everything, but believe nothing at this point, because not only Berry, but other teams, they're looking to manipulate that board. They're looking to put some false information out there. And also sometimes too, they'll sprinkle in a little truth that goes with that. But like right now, while I believe the pick's going to be Travis Hunter, I have some reservations about Abdul Carter. I have some off the field concerns. I have some concerns about his health and his feet. Myles Garrett, who they're going to pay $40 million a year to keep him happy and pretend to believe in whatever it is that the Browns plan to do to get this thing on track. $40 million a year. But he, remember, is also dealing with a foot thing. He's playing through it. He doesn't feel like he's going to need surgery at this point, but at some point in his life, he may need surgery. So I don't know that the Browns need two defensive ends where they have to wake up every morning wondering, is today the day that they one of these guys is going to need surgery? And I understand, I believe it was the NFL owners meetings where Berry specifically mentioned that he was not concerned with Abdul Carter's medicals. And so I'll take him at face value there. But for me right now, I put that as a red flag. And one of my criticisms of Berry as the football executive is he does not take enough time to heed red flags. He doesn't listen to red flags. And for me, that is a pretty big problem. So that's where we are with that particular situation. Let's talk about next who the Browns have worked out. Let's go through the pool of potential rookie quarterbacks that are going to be at their disposal and who I believe they are going to be picking from, as well as what maybe week one is going to look like, whomever they end up playing. And then also later in the podcast, we'll touch on the dome situation for the Browns and the latest news there, where the political performance art never ceases to amaze me. So we'll talk about all of that next. You're listening to It's Always Game Day in Cleveland. It's always game day in Cleveland. I'm Daryl Ryder. Andy Baskin is on assignment, at least I think. We are brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. Some news came out. Of course, we know the Browns went to Colorado. They basically sent everyone but the janitor and the receptionist out there to take in the Colorado Pro Day Spectacular Extravaganza, whatever it is that Deion Sanders called that thing. And they were back on the road checking out Jalen Milroe, according to Jordan Schultz of Fox Sports. And according to Schultz, they came away impressed with the Alabama quarterback. No surprise that workout took place. Of course, everyone wants to tie together Milroe with Browns offensive coordinator Tommy Rees. I certainly understand that, but the fact that the Browns went ahead and worked him out, not all that surprising. And we'll see if ultimately he ends up being selected at some point. But for me, I kind of feel like that there's a pool of 4 quarterbacks that the Browns are working from right now. That would be 2 guys that I just mentioned that they went and saw workouts with, Shedeur Sanders and Jalen Milroe. The other 2 guys are Jackson Dart and then Tyler Shuck. He's the quarterback for Louisville that I think has spent the better part of the last decade in college. And as I like to say, from the Tommy Boy movies, remember David Spade? A lot of people go to college for 7 years. They're called lawyers and doctors. Apparently quarterbacks do that now too. So Tyler Shuck, his name has really started to kind of pop up as someone who might be intriguing for the Browns to take later in the draft. I don't see the Browns coming away with 2 of these guys. I kind of feel like if they end up with a second quarterback, you take like a Will Howard or someone like that later on in the draft, where you're just kind of like taking a flyer on a guy and hoping you get a little something to stick there, and just you give yourself another swing. But I think that Jackson Dart is intriguing. I could see a scenario where maybe the Browns trade back into the first round to take a quarterback to complement Travis Hunter with that second overall pick. I kind of don't feel like the Browns will draft at 33. I think they'll, get a second first round pick. And this is a draft I kind of feel like they want to make a splash. The Browns really need to add a lot of significant young talent to this team. And one way to do that is to bring in some young talent. And they're certainly going to have that opportunity. As we've talked ad nauseum about the number 2 overall pick, they have 33. They also have number 67 and 94 in the 3rd round, and then 104 in round 4. So you're talking that's 5 picks. Quick math there, 5 picks in the top 104 slots of this particular draft. And then they take a little break, and they're going to be very busy in round 6 right now. 179, 192, 200, and 216. Maybe 216 will be a lucky number for them. And then their final pick is number 255. By the way, 216 and 255 are both compensatory picks, which means they're at the very back end of those particular rounds in the draft. But they didn't get Mr. Irrelevant. There was actually a moment in time where we thought, well, maybe the Browns could end up with Mr. Irrelevant, but that is not going to happen. Of course, if if week 1 were to start today, Kenny Pickett is your starting quarterback. I can kind of feel your excitement. I share it with you. I kind of feel like Kevin Stefanski right now. Anytime you talk to him about Kenny Pickett, or he's on the record with Kenny Pickett, he talks about how he has played games in the National Football League and he's won games. But what does not get discussed is the level of play. But I do believe that Stefanski is really sincere when talking about his thoughts and belief that, I don't know, maybe they find anything there with Pickett, but I feel like Stefanski is really sincere when he says that, yes, if Kenny Pickett has to start week 1, we believe in him. We think he can go out there and help us win football games. Clearly, Kevin Stefanski can't go out there and say, yeah, the guy sucks. That's why we got him in here, and we have no chance to win if he starts any of our games for us. But, we'll hope to hide him on the bench. Of course, Kevin Stefanski is not going to say that, and I'm not saying that that's really how Stefanski feels, but, there is some coach speak in there. And, again, if they had to play a football game right now, well, guess what? Kenny Pickett's got to play because there are no other quarterbacks in the room. And my theory, and I stand by this, is that they're going to draft 2 quarterbacks and they're going to have an undrafted rookie free agent. And that is going to be the 4 quarterbacks that they have in that particular room. So that's really where we're at right now. We also got some news as far as the offseason program. We now know what that is looking like, which is good. The Browns offseason program is going to be getting underway here in a couple months. In fact, if my memory serves me correctly, I think the teams with the new head coaches, I think they started their offseason program today on Monday here, April 7th, as we are recording this particular podcast. So that gives you a little idea there. But we do know the Browns offseason program is going to begin later this month. They only have one quarterback. Thankfully, the first part of the offseason program does not really entail anything of significance. They are just basically kind of, doing calisthenics. But, April 23rd, April 22nd, I should say, is when it begins. And then at some point that week, we will hear from head coach Kevin Stefanski and some players. Also mixed in there, by the way, we're going to have a pre-draft press conference, which usually takes place 1 week before the NFL draft. And, of course, the draft is April 24th through the 26th. Rookie minicamp, by the way, scheduled for May 9th through the 11th. OTAs mixed in there. We've got mandatory minicamp, which is scheduled for June 10th through 12th. We did find out some of our availability for this offseason. The Browns are actually going to hold some. They're one of 4 teams holding OTAs after veteran mandatory minicamp. But get this, I don't believe there's going to be any media availability for those OTAs that are going to be on the back end. So let's just put it this way. I'm very happy about that because my favorite day of the offseason program is the last day when we're done for the summer and we don't have to deal with anything Browns related for at least a month and a half until they come back from training camp. Speaking of dealing with things, having to deal with politicians, at least the Browns are, and a lot of controversy surrounding contributions that Browns ownership may have made to certain politicians in Columbus while asking for state assistance for the Dome. We'll get into that. Also, some political performance art related to the Browns requesting state assistance with the Dome. And something that got thrown out there about the potential future of the Cincinnati Bengals. And, I'm also going to talk about how the Bengals royally screwed up their stadium planning process. Unlike the Browns, who came up with 2 plans, well, the Bengals only came up with 1 plan, and they done messed it up. We'll talk about that next on It's Always Game Day in Cleveland. Welcome back to It's Always Game Day in Cleveland. I'm Daryl Ryder. Andy Baskin, I think, is on assignment. We are brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. So the Dome battle, the battle for the Brook Park Barn Dominium continues right now, as we have mentioned on the podcast and I mentioned on the air. I've written about this too. As it stands right now, $600 million in state bonds set aside for the Browns Brook Park Dome project. But some really stupid stuff happens politically. I have bemoaned the political theater that Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb has certainly engaged in. Also, County Executive Chris Ronayne. Now, state senator, I want to make sure I get this right. He's from Columbus, but Democrat State Senator Bill DeMora has introduced a performance art bill that would require teams who request state funding assistance for their stadiums to have a winning record for 3 of the previous 5 years before they can ask for money. And of all the stupid stuff I have heard recently, in the words of the great Les Levine, that's the most recent. This is where we're at. The politicians are, this schmuck. Trying to keep this a family podcast, so I'm just going to call him a schmuck because that's what he is. This schmuck thinks, Bill DeMora, state senator, thinks that this is actually a viable bit. Like, this is a viable thing. Okay, look, if you don't want state funding to go toward a stadium project, then just say so. Don't come up with stupid nonsense like this is. Again, I keep having to stop myself because I want to say something else that includes a lot of 4-letter words. But yeah, just say so. Don't vote for it then. Like, it's fine. Like, that's why you're elected. You're representing your constituency. Obviously, I don't expect that many folks in Columbus, Ohio, gives a crap if the Cleveland Browns get a new dome or not. Like, fine. Then just say that. this nonsense of, well, you got to win 3 out of 5 years. So this reminds me of the last time the Browns went through this process years ago, back in the mid 20 teens. I was sitting in a city council meeting. Joe Banner at the time was, I think, the Browns team president. And he was sitting there. Some lawyers from the Browns were sitting there. And all the city councilmen are gathered around their big board table in downtown Cleveland. And the the council president, I should say, basically said, hey, I realize we're all not thrilled with how things have gone for the Browns on the field, but I would just like to remind you, the Cleveland Browns are a multi-million, if not multi-billion-dollar business in the city of Cleveland, and we will treat them with the same respect as any other business that comes before this council. And so if we can keep the commentary about the performance of the team on the field away from this meeting, that is basically an order. That is an order of business, or whatever the terminology they like to use. But basically, it was just like, okay, we're not going to sit here and bemoan the fact that the Browns suck every year. This is about a business transaction, so let's kind of keep this all related to what the team or what the organization is requesting of us, and not so much that. So, like, this state center doing this performance art, it's preposterous. It's stupid. It doesn't advance the conversation. It doesn't add to the debate. All it did, it got this dummy on TV all the time, which is, I guess, what he was going for. So congratulations to you. You got your likes, you got your clicks, you got your camera time. Now go away. Okay, let's get into the Cincinnati Bengals situation. And the reason I realize this is a Browns podcast, but it does relate to the Browns a little bit here. So, first off, the Modell Law, there's already chatter in Hamilton County and Cincinnati that they would try to do what Cleveland is doing, and that is hold the Bengals to the Modell Law. Well, funny thing came out late last week. Team executive Katie Blackburn revealed that the team potentially could entertain leaving Cincinnati after the 2025 season should they not exercise clauses in their lease to continue the lease going forward while they're trying to negotiate their stadium deal. And so then Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk picked up on that, and he threw out some pretty wild speculation, but I get it, that maybe the Bengals could consider moving to Chicago, where the Bears are trying to get their multi-billion-dollar dome built. Could that happen? Could the Bengals ultimately leave Cincinnati and go to Chicago, team up with the Bears, similar to how the New York Giants and the New York Jets teamed up to build MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, the Meadowlands in New Jersey, which was basically in the parking lot of the former Giants Stadium. And that stadium actually was built, I should say it was privately financed. Really, the public dollars that went toward that project were basically related to like infrastructure, roads and utilities, installation and things like that. But the Jets and Giants at the time teamed up to build that facility. So Mike Florio kind of just tossed out the idea of, hey, what if the Bengals say, yeah, let's go ahead and leave. And then, let's go to Chicago, team up with the Bears, and then go ahead and do that. Now, again, this is speculation from Mike Florio, who also acknowledged in his little bit his spiel that he put together, that the chances of it actually happening are, slim to none. They're very low. In theory, yes, it could happen, but the likelihood is probably not. But at the owners' meetings, it came up that, this was a possibility. Now, I would like to salute the Cincinnati Bengals for completely screwing up their stadium project, because they didn't put any formal requests into the state yet, because they're still trying to figure out what they're projecting to be a $1.2 billion renovation of Paycor Stadium there down on the riverfront. By the way, I want to send a shout out to the folks of Cincinnati. Thinking about you. I've seen the videos. The Ohio River has swollen and overflowed its banks. It's one of I think it's the biggest flood they've had down there in close to a decade. The river's like over 60 feet at this point. It's well over its bank. So hope everyone down there in Cincinnati is safe. And actually, the water is creeping up to, if not around, Paycor Stadium right now. But they didn't get in on this this budget cycle that Ohio has, whereas the Browns did. Like the Browns put together first, it was renovation money. And then they decided to pivot to the Brook Park thing, but they got their requests in. And ultimately right now, as things are going through the state Senate and they're mulling whether or not to give the Browns this money. And I think the Ohio House, I misspoke. It's going through the Ohio House now before it goes to the Senate. But as it's written in now, the Browns would get their $600 million in bonds. I can tell you that the governor, Mike DeWine, who we had on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, and if you missed that interview, you can watch it on YouTube or, go back on our podcast feed, wherever you get the podcast, and go back and listen to Ohio Governor Mike DeWine talk about his plan to double the state gaming tax. I should say the state tax on gaming companies from 20 to 40%. That new 20% would go create a pool of revenue that they're projecting anywhere from $130 to $180 million in revenue per year. And then those that want stadium funding for their stadium projects around the state would then apply for money from this fund. And when you talk about over 30 years, I mean, you're talking about a fund that could be close to $40 billion. So that would definitely service the 6 major league stadiums that we have in the state of Ohio. Of course, it's Progressive Field, Rocket Arena, and the Browns Dome up here in Cleveland. In Cincinnati, it's Great American Ballpark and Paycor Stadium, the home of the Reds and the Bengals. And then in Columbus, they have Nationwide Arena, home to the Columbus Blue Jackets. So there are 6 major league facilities. There's a bunch of minor league facilities throughout the state. There is also some other provisions of what might qualify for some stadium funding. So his plan was that, and basically the Ohio House decided, that plan stinks. It's going to be looked at as a tax increase. Voters aren't going to be happy with us if we push this through, so we're going to scrap it. But I do kind of feel like there may be some a sliver of hope in the governor's office that when it's all said and done and this thing gets done by the end of June, that provision will be in there. But yeah, the Bengals really screwed up their stadium process. They did not get their ask into the state on time to get included in this budget cycle. Whereas the Browns, they have been working the state politicians now for a couple of years. There's some controversy up here in Cleveland. If you watch the news, the Haslams are known for their political activism when it comes to donating toward political candidates. They're billionaires, so obviously they lean toward the Republican Party. And I realize this is not a political podcast, and we're not going to go down any of those roads. But I mean, it is part of this. There is a political aspect to this whole discussion about funding stadiums, and especially where the Haslams are involved. But there's some controversy because the Haslams made political contributions, as a lot of people do. But their political contributions were in the 6-figure range to various politicians that would have some potential influence over this process, this stadium funding process, which I don't know why that's a surprise to anybody, because that's kind of how this country works. Companies lobby. Washington, D.C., half of Washington, D.C. is it's lobby. You have congressmen, you have members of the executive branch, you have members of the judicial branch and the federal government. And then the other half of the pie of the residents of that particular area there, D.C., Maryland, Northern Virginia, is lobbyists. That's their, they give lots and lots of money. I don't think it's any surprise that the congressmen become millionaires and senators become millionaires by being public servants as congressmen or senators. But there is some controversy there. Some folks are raising some eyebrows because I guess the Haslams made some political contributions leading up to that. I got some I guess some heat on X. People were yelling at me because I hadn't written about it. Well, I don't cover politics in the state of Ohio, and quite frankly, I'm not allowed to talk about politics nationally or in the state of Ohio. And the only reason that I brought that up in this particular conversation was just because it does actually relate to the Browns' process in trying to receive state funding support. So that's going to put a bow on this one. We're going to wrap it up. Once again, we are brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. Want to thank Evan O'Brien for putting up with me, recording this and producing this podcast for us. You can get us on YouTube. Feel free to watch us there. You can download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Find us on the free Odyssey app as well. So for my partner, Andy Baskin, who I believe will be back for the next podcast, I'm Daryl Ryder, reminding you that it's always game day in Cleveland.